So now that you've had a minute to go back and watch the shows, first of all, he was an incredible designer. Beautiful, theatrical, really puts on a show. And a lot of these designers do that. That is what they're looking for. They want to entertain their audience, especially people like, you have your Marc Jacobs for the Louis Vuitton, where he had the escalators one year, or any kind of Chanel show. Karl Lagerfeld is very into that performance. He's into that, that entertainment value. And as a model, you have to be prepared to be malleable to that. You have to learn the choreography if there's choreography. You have to be able to wear these clothes. If they are completely absurd and difficult to walk in, guess what? You're gonna have to pull it off, and that takes a lot of practice. So keep that in mind. Now with this video that you watched, you see the progression from the traditional show through the sort of theatrics that Alexander puts on over the years. As his brand grows, as his confidence grows, so do his shows. So you could be walking through water. You could be walking around lampposts. There could be choreography involved. And these are definitely things that you want to keep in mind when you're thinking, oh, I really want to do runway. It's not necessarily just that back and forth. Your clothes aren't always going to fit. Your shoes most likely will never fit. So you're always going to have to figure out, like, how am I going to make this work without tripping, without stumbling, without bumping into someone. Remembering that choreography. If you end up doing these fashion weeks and you have multiple shows and you have multiple choreography to remember, it can get a little tricky. So my main piece of advice, I guess, here would be to always practice on your walk. It's super important. Now, you're going to want to maybe reference back to other YouTube videos, watch other fashion shows, watch models as they walk these runways. You want to see what their gait is like. You want to see what their posture is like. You want to see their expressions. You want to see how they carry themselves, how they hold themselves, their tempos. Get an idea for what different designers like as far as their different walks, as far as their different styled models. Because everybody's a little bit different, but you're always going to want to have that signature you walk. It's so important. So when you watch these shows, again, like America's Next Top Model, where they have those runways out in the house and then they have the mirror at the end and they just walk back and forth and they practice, you want to do that. You want to practice. You want to have that signature walk. I have mine that I use when I'm walking in fashion shows, as I still do today, and it's important to keep that up and to make sure that it's not dated too, because a lot of times walks can be dated. A lot of times it could be a little too much, where you think in your mind, oh, this is great. It's a really good idea to have a friend, to have someone else watch you. Another good idea is to have a video camera and record yourself and watch yourself, because you might not realize that, like, oh, you have an arm that swings on one side, or oh, you kind of maybe favor one side a little bit more than the other as far as like your hip or something like that you don't see because you're in it, you're in the moment, even if you're looking at a mirror. So you want to make sure that you can watch it back, because a lot of times, especially as you move forward in your career and you have an agent, they will request tapes from you to see your walk so that they can submit you for runway shows. And you want that. You absolutely want that, and you want to have your most perfect walk. So always be sure to practice. It is so very important. And again, to be prepared. Another thing that we'll hit on a little bit later in the course is going to be your model bag and how to be as prepared as possible. And that's going to include being prepared for fashion shows, the things that you will need for yourself to ensure that you have the best possible performance on your end for your clients. You want to make sure if your shoes don't fit, that your shoes aren't going to fall off, that you have everything that you need in order to make their clothes look as amazing as possible. Because again, you are being hired to sell a product. You might need to be as the best version of yourself as possible when walking in these shows, but it's not about you looking great. It's about you making the clothes look great. And that is something, again, I cannot stress enough. At the end of the day, it is about you being hired to sell a product. It might be glamorous. It might feel amazing walking up and down that runway. You get that high, you get that adrenaline from the live audience. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like walking in a fashion show and having that energy. It just pulsates with the music and the lights, and it can get a little distracting. It can get a little overwhelming, but at the end of the day, you are there to make those clothes look as beautiful, as wonderful, and as aspirational as possible, so that everyone in that audience wants to be you. They want to be in those clothes. So that's going to be one of the better jobs that you could probably have, as far as feeling like you're really in the moment, a model, and feeling glamorous and feeling beautiful. Even though I can tell you half the things that are going on backstage are not glamorous and they are not beautiful. But when you have those moments, those seconds on the runway, because it's only seconds that you're out there, it's really satisfying. So I hope that, that's something that you'll keep in mind also when thinking about, oh, what would I really like to get into as far as being a model. And I also want to touch on, we're going to touch on this a little bit later as well, the plus and the curve models as well. Fashion runway, that is a big deal for them as well. So if that's something that you're interested in, or that's something that more describes you, then absolutely fashion runway, traditional runway is going to be a great place for you. So a typical fashion show can be pretty crazy backstage. Now, you'll normally have a fitting a day or two before, and that way you'll know exactly what it is that you're wearing. You'll be able to try everything on, see how it fits. If they need to make changes and are able to make changes, then they will. So you will have racks of clothes, and the models will have their names on the clothing. And you'll have anywhere from 1 to even 5 looks, really. It just depends on how many people are in the fashion show and how many looks they're trying to get out during the show. So you'll have typically fairly quick changes. So that's something you absolutely want to be prepared for. You normally would have someone there to help you change, but that's not always the case. So you have to be prepared for that. As far as hair and makeup goes, it's a circus. So just to put it nicely, you're going to have all the girls in hair and makeup at once. You're going to have multiple makeup artists. There's going to be hair done simultaneously. You're going to have people yelling, the backstage coordinators wanting to get the girls ready. Is everyone ready? The countdown to the show. You're going to be hearing the audience in the background. It's crazy. So you want to keep that in mind, that if you think, oh, it's so glamorous and the girls are getting their hair and makeup done, and it's not like that at all. It's rush, rush, rush. We got to get it going. And when the lights go down and the music goes up and you're starting to walk, it's so fast. And it's like, I wish I could explain to you just the rush, the adrenaline that goes on backstage at a fashion show, because there really is nothing like it. But you always want to be as prepared as possible for as quick a turnaround as possible, and not having the help necessarily that you think that you need, or you might really need. I know from my experience, I've had a couple shows where I didn't have people helping me change. So basically, you would get off the stage, you run to your rack, you have to drop clothes on the floor, throw on the next outfit as quickly as possible. You're putting your shoes on as you're going out on the runway. It's crazy, but so exciting at the same time. So I can't stress it enough. There's nothing really like a fashion show. And at Fashion Week, it can be, again, super exhausting, especially when you have multiple shows in a row. Because keep in mind, all the prep time, the hour or hours that you might have ahead of a show, the show only lasts 10 minutes. It's super fast. It's very, very just go, go, go. Because these girls are walking up and down. Unless you're in a show that's a little more like the Louis Vuitton, like the Chanel, where it's a slower paced, there's a lot more girls, you're in maybe 1 or 2 outfits and it's choreographed, then it's a little more relaxed. Now those are the kinds of shows that, those are very aspirational shows. If you can get to Paris Fashion Week, if you can do those, then that's amazing. But I want you to be prepared for those other shows like Fashion Week in New York, or even the ones that might be more local to you. I know that there are department stores that have runway shows, traditional runway shows within their stores, or the malls. And I know Orlando has a Mall of Millennia Fashion Week, and they have the traditional runway fashion shows that go on all throughout the days for a number of days, and they can be crazy. They can be really high pace, fast paced, high energy. Lots of people. I mean, the mall just gets completely crowded. You don't want to discount these shows either because they're really good paying shows. Now, sometimes the fashion shows that you might see in like New York, the girls aren't getting paid very much. A lot of times they might not be getting paid at all. They're getting paid in basically just having that credit and wanting that credit. Which is great if that's something that you're really interested in, but at the end of the day, like I said, I'm trying to teach you how to be a working model, and that to me means getting paid for your services, getting paid to sell this product. So these traditional runway shows, they can have that fast-paced energy backstage. You can have that audience that helps you with that adrenaline when you're out front, or it could be a little more relaxed. It could be a little more choreographed, high-end, a little more stoic in energy. There are different types. You just have to, I don't know, it really just depends on the designer. It depends on the brand. It depends on what you're hired to do. And you just have to be malleable. You have to be versatile. You have to just kind of know what you are capable of, and that you have your signature and that you have your practice, and be able to apply that to what it is that is necessary for the job that you are hired to do. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about getting hired to sell this product. It's about getting hired and getting paid to be a working model.